Alright, welcome back. If you are new to the channel, you picked a very good week to join. Hungary, I have not been here in a long time. Last time I drove this was in the Skip Barber. So this is, and I think it's new for the Ray as well. Um, this is a hard track to learn. This is a hard track to drive. There's going to be a lot of crashing. There are going to be a lot of X's. Your safety rating is going to take a hit this week. However, I think we're in for a treat here, especially early in the week. I think a lot of people are going to be caught out with the setup. So we'll go into that in a second. So there's a lot of corner cutting to be done here. The ride height is quite high for me, especially. Minus 13 in the front, minus 12 in the back. I don't think you need to go any higher than that. However, if you find the curbs are too disruptive, you may want to increase that up a notch. There's a lot of uphill and downhill braking. So one click up on the damper compression just to keep some more pressure on the rear. Brake pressure, individual thing, however, probably a little higher than what you're used to. Again, a lot of uphill and downhill braking. So if you're locking up the tires too easy, increase that brake bias, and that will help fix that. So spring rates, front and back, soft as they go. Grip here is hard to come by, so that is why we've got them so low. And here is the big thing. So go into your iRacing setups, load Hungary, give it a try with the iRacing setup. It is like ice. It is ice capades. The cambers in the iRacing setup are really, well, not necessarily maxed out, but pretty close to being maxed out. This track, many of the corners are off camber. And so if you've got the camber turned up, the wheel tilted in towards your car, and the track is tilted away from your car, well, guess what? There's not that much contact patch with the car. So I've lowered the cambers significantly, and it is much easier to drive, much more grip, faster times. Like I said, with the cambers turned up, I think iRacing has it at 1.8 in the front, or 1.7. It is so slick, especially about 6 laps to really get the tires getting any grip. Turn 2, people who are using the iRacing setup, it's going to be ice capades. They're going to be doing triple sow cows into turn 2. Watch out. There's going to be a lot of crashing, I think, early in the week. Towing is turned up just to give the car more turn in. A lot of tight corners here, a lot of understeer, again with those off camber corners, so the tow is turned up. It's 1.4. If you find, depending on your wheel, depending on your driving style, you may want to lower that to 1.3. This makes the front end a little bit sharper, and it might be a little too sharp for some people. So a 1.3 is going to give you a little bit more understeer, and that may make things a little easier for you. Camber in the rear, again, iRacing, I think it's 1.4. So I've got it down to 0.9. And good news, the cambers are equal on both sides, so no messing around with the cambers. Toe in the rear, again, 0.3. It's up a little bit, and the toe in the front and the rear is also just to give you better braking performance as well. So ride height we talked about, minus 12 in the back. ARB is 5 mils. You do need to rotate the car here. Even with the other changes, there is still a bit of understeer, and there are a lot of corners, long corners, and you need to have the car rotated. If you're really struggling, go with 0, but you do need that rotation. 14 liters. I don't know if that's going to get to the end, honestly. That's going to have to check that out. You may need 15 liters to go to the end with this track, so just watch out for that. And big change as well, I guess. iRacing has it at a tall gear stack. Standard, I find, is much easier coming into corners, being in a gear that's more comfortable. However, the tall is not bad. And if you are one of the faithful using a stick, tall might be where you want to be. It just it's probably going to make things a little smoother and a little easier with a stick. With a tall gear stack, it's not going to really cost you much in terms of time. Try the standard, but you're definitely going to be busier with the standard shifting gears. So just be aware of that. We'll go into the uh, guide in slow-mo and then run it out at full speed. Track is 33 now. That is on the cooler side. I've seen the track, I think, up to 42 degrees. So this is a little bit easier. However, 0% usage, so that's making things a little more slick too. So I figured it balanced out. So going into turn 1. So fourth gear. This is a really bad braking marker, but I'm looking, depending on what you're looking at visually, there is a white patch of whatever, something here, a spill. I'm using that as a brake marker, not a great brake marker if there's a car in front of you. The 100 board, you can use that as a guide, but you're braking just before the 100 board, probably about 2 car lengths. Fourth gear, hard on the brakes, very hard on the brakes. This is downhill. If you're trying to go in here braking late, it is downhill at this point, and the slope is increasing, and it's going to be very hard to make that apex. So very hard on the brakes, down into first gear, and then you want to be releasing the brakes as you start to turn in. If you are still holding the brakes hard and you turn in, you're going to be spinning out here, and there's going to be a lot of people spinning out here, or going deep, way too deep. So getting onto the curb here, just grazing it a bit. I don't mind getting more on the curb there. I would rather hit that curb more than run wide. And picking up the throttle, and it's important. You can see here I'm picking up the throttle before the apex. This is a bit of a straight coming out of here, well, not a straight, but a full throttle section, so it's important to get on the throttle early. Run out wide here, just keep a tire within that white line. That should be easy to do. That one, unless you've really messed it up, is pretty easy. And then working your way over to the right. So looking for the yellow board, and this is a tricky section. There's going to be a lot of people spinning out here, and there's also going to be people braking at a lot of different places. But looking for the yellow sign in fourth gear, hard on the brakes down into second gear. There will be people probably braking later here, but the later you brake, the more of a slope there is down this hill, and you are going to sacrifice exit. And again, after this corner, you are on throttle for a fair bit. So at the Marshall station here, gently turning in, releasing the brakes. It's important to brake early so you can start to release them, because if you come in here with the brakes on, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be saying hello to that wall over there. And then just as you come around the corner, starting to pick up the throttle, don't get onto the white stuff. That's going to be pretty disruptive. And don't stomp on the throttle as well. You're going to spin out if you do that. Picking it up nice and easy, and just, you can use all of the track here on the right, but you have to get a bit over to the left, so that is up to you. Second gear, up into third, and it's important to cut this corner. This is a very hard corner to stay in bounds, and if you cut this one, you are going to make it easier to avoid that X. Keep a tire within the white line, and you're good. I cut that pretty close. Full throttle, and just unwinding the wheel, getting over here. This is where it's easy to get an X. You cross this white line, you get an X. Not the end of the world. However, in your quali lap, that's no good. So up into fourth. Now it's important to get the car lined up straight for this curb. You do not want to be coming into this corner with the wheel, any input in the wheel. You want to be straight, and just before this white line, just lifting, shifting down into third, little bit of brake, a little bit more brake when the tires are cold, getting onto the curb, and then you have to line yourself up. This is very hard if there's a car in front of you, obviously, but you have to line yourself up to go over this curb, keeping your right-hand tire over the white line. And now, when you're on this curb, do not be accelerating. Hold the throttle steady, or even be lifting, especially cold tires, but don't be accelerating over this curb. You will spin up and run into big trouble. Once you're on the pavement, full throttle, and this is again is a very tricky one on exit. If you get onto the curbs here, it's very slick, and you'll then run even wider, hit this grate, get onto this pavement over here, which is very slick, and you're going to be spinning. Watch for cars going across the track as they try to rejoin, and they spin up even more, and they go across the track and take you out. Hopefully not. Then you got to get yourself over to the left, and you're looking for the end of the colored barrier here. Good blast of brakes, shifting down into second. Again, you don't want to come into this too deep. If you come into this too deep, you are going to be running wide and getting onto the pavement over there, which is very slippery. So yeah, down into second, and then just a little bit of throttle management here just to keep that back end planted. The back end is really going to want to step out here, so don't stomp on the throttle, just give it a little bit of throttle just to keep that back end planted. And kind of as you see this orange thing in your view, you're wanting to be on full throttle. There is a lot of time actually to be lost here if you mess this corner up, surprising amount of time. So this is another one where you're going to see a lot of different braking, people braking at different points. Just braking here at the curbs, down into first gear, hard on the brakes. You'll see some people probably braking later because we're going to cut the corner here. Hard on the brakes, turning in, releasing the brakes, as I said, down into first gear, and you want to cut this corner. And this drops a fair bit of time if you cut this corner. If you don't cut this corner, it is much slower. Again, keeping your left tire over the white line, and again, just being careful with the throttle as you cut that corner, and then again, cut this corner. Now this one, you can get a slowdown on, so just be careful. I believe if you get up top here, you have to actually cross the red and white barrier. You get a slowdown, but again, if your tire's over that white line, you get an X. But if you really cut it, it's a slowdown and a painful one. Second gear, full throttle. Now you want to get your tire on, your right-hand tire onto the white stuff up here, and you're looking for the green Rolex sign. And basically, it's just a lift, little dab of brake when the tires are cold, turning in earlier than you think. Again, we're cutting the corner here, so turning in at that Rolex sign, and a little bit of throttle, just managing the throttle just to keep that rear end compliant. And again, getting on the curb here, keep your tire inside the white line, and you have to get over to the left as best you can. This is a spot where people will try and go up the inside, so watch out for that. Little dab of brake. There's not really a great marker, but it's, you can use the P0, the Pirelli here, the middle of this signage. Just a little dab of brake, just to get the car turning in a little bit better. And again, getting onto the curb here, onto the flatter part of the red and white. I think, oh, I came in a little wide there, but you want to get onto the red and white there just to cut that corner a bit, because this is another big X. Keep the tire inside the white line. You won't get the X, but it's not the end of the world. Going to be a lot of people getting X's there. And again, coming into this one, you want to make sure the wheel is straight. Third gear, I like to leave this in third gear. You could shift up into fourth, it just makes it a little trickier. Third gear, lifting at the start. Whoop. Lifting at the start of the curbs here. Cold tires, you may want to just give it a dab of brakes, but once they're warm, it's just a lift. And again, getting onto the red and white curb here. And again, I would rather get more aggressive on the curb than run this wide. And just managing the throttle as you're on the curb, but picking it up full throttle once you're on the pavement. And again, very easy spot to pick up an X. If you cross the white line, you can get sucked into this grate. You are in a straight line, so it's not too bad, but watch out. You can run into some trouble there if you run real wide. So fourth gear, and you can see that this one you want to make use of the curb, but there's grass in front of the curb, and really to brake properly, for me, I have to be on the brakes before the curb. So having the car aimed at the curb, but not actually getting onto the grass, hard on the brakes just before the curb, down into second gear. Again, just this is opening up the corner, down into second, then releasing the brakes as you turn in. Again, if you are hard on the brakes as you're turning, you are going to be spinning out. And turning in earlier than you think, getting onto these curbs, and then picking up the throttle as you have your tires back on the pavement. Very easy to get an X here as well. This isn't too disruptive. There's no grate here this time. And I don't think you can get that any closer. I did keep the wheel inside. It's, again, not the end of the world in a race if you get the X there, but in quali that's trouble. Now up into third, looking for the Marshall box, and this is another one of these tricky corners where you're going to see a lot of different braking, people braking at different points. So looking for that Marshall box, third gear, hard on the brakes, down into first gear, and then turning in at the end of the curbs here. Again, if you run in deeper than this, it is very hard to get the car slowed down enough, and the track, the deeper you go in, the more camber you're going against. So braking maybe earlier than you think, but picking up the throttle as well, just managing it, getting the car turned in. Now I think I clipped the white on here. Yeah, don't get onto this curb. This one's a little disruptive. This cost me some time. You want to just keep the tire right up against the white line, and then picking up the throttle as early as you can, straightening the wheel. You can make use of all the track here on exit. You can get into the pit lane. It's no X or anything like that. You do want to work yourself over to the left hand side though, looking for the Marshall box here. There's a white line as well, so it's kind of between the Marshall box and the white line. Just a bit of brake. Cold tires, it's a bit more brake, but you don't want to brake too hard, and you want to be releasing you want to give it a blast of brakes and then release the brakes. Again, if you're coming in here holding the brakes, that back end is going to want to step out. And then just managing the throttle, a little bit of throttle just to keep that back end planted. And once it's a little hard to go by, but once you get around the corner, the Pirelli signs are on your left, and there's a red, this white and red part of the Hungary colors. Picking up the throttle, you want to be back onto full throttle. Open up the wheel. It's kind of a blind corner because of that barrier. You can't really see the exit until you should have been on the throttle already. And then just unwinding it all the way, make use of all the track on the left. Now you can cross the white line here. You can get onto the green stuff. It doesn't necessarily make it faster if you go super wide, but don't cross this yellow line on the left. That's where you do get the X. And there's no real run to the finish. you can try and pass someone through that last corner, but there is no run to the finish line. So that's a 1:54.4. I think that's going to be a pretty competitive time, especially early in the week. I think a lot of people are going to be caught out with the iRacing setup. So good luck out there. Watch out. This is a tough track to survive. It's easy to kill yourself, and it's easy to get killed by other people. So we'll see you next time. We'll run this out at full speed. Good luck.